Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really interesting snapshot of the healthcare world.
Oh, yeah. What have we got?
It's the global market for gout therapeutics.
Right.
We got a recent market report, and well, the big headline right away is this market, projected to hit USD 270 million in 2025.
Okay, 3.27 billion. Let's unpack that a bit. For anyone watching healthcare trends or, the pharma industry, that number isn't just noise.
Right.
It points to a pretty significant and obviously expanding area. It's focused on treating a condition that, well, it affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
Tells us there's a growing need, definitely, in a market that's responding.
Exactly. And this report, it's like the zoomed out view. It covers, where the market is now, how fast it's expected to grow, which parts of the world are leading, the big companies involved, the different kinds of treatments being used. It's pretty comprehensive.
So the full picture, what's really catching my eye, though, is the anticipated growth. You mentioned that.
I did. By 2033, it's predicted to reach USD 493.6 million.
Wow, okay. So from about 3.3 billion to nearly 5.5 billion, that's quite a leap.
It really is. And the report flags a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 6.70% from 2025 through to 2033.
Okay, 6.7%.
So yeah, not just a quick spike. It shows pretty consistent growth over, 8 years?
Right. And if you link this to the bigger picture, this growth isn't happening in a vacuum, is it?
No, definitely not.
It's being pushed by some key things underneath.
Yeah.
We're seeing more of those lifestyle-related conditions, the ones that can contribute to gout. And then on the treatment side, there are some genuinely exciting advancements happening, new therapies being developed.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about what's really fueling these numbers and what it means for managing gout down the line.
Absolutely. So let's dig into those specifics. The report confirms, like we said, 2025, the global market is at that USD 3,270 million mark.
Got it.
And just to underline it, the forecast shows it hitting USD 593.6 million by 2033, growing at that 6.7% each year on average.
That's the big picture, global view.
Right. That's the global overview. Now let's zoom in a bit. How do things look region by region?
Okay, the regional breakdown, this gives some really interesting perspectives. North America currently holds the biggest slice, over 40% of the global revenue. In 2025, their market is estimated at USD 1,209.90 million.
Wow, almost 1.21 billion.
Yeah, and they're projected to grow at a CAGR of 5.2% through 2033.
So still growing, but maybe a bit slower than the global average.
A little slower, yeah.
Yeah.
This dominance, it probably reflects, the established healthcare infrastructure there, maybe greater access to a wider range of treatments.
And within North America, I assume the U.S. market is the main driver.
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. market alone expected to be worth USD 954.61 million in 2025. That's almost $1 billion right there.
Huge.
With a 5.0% CAGR. The report points to factors like, rising obesity rates, certain dietary trends, and of course, a growing older population, key contributors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those are all the classic factors tied to gout, aren't they?
They are.
What about Canada and Mexico? How do they fit into this North American picture?
Canada's also significant, projected market size of USD 145.19 million in 2025. And their CAGR is actually a bit higher, 6.0%.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this growth could be linked to maybe availability of advanced treatments and generally good healthcare access.
Okay.
Mexico, looking at USD 110.1 million in 2025, also showing healthy growth, 5.7%. So, yeah, the U.S. leads, but the whole region is a substantial market.
Right. Okay. Let's hop across the Atlantic. What's the story in Europe?
Europe holds a big share, too. Over 30% of the global revenue, market size there, USD 948.3 million in 2025, so nearly $1 billion.
Close behind North America, then.
Pretty close, and their projected CAGR is solid, 5.8% through 2033. It points to steady growth in a region with, generally well-established healthcare systems.
And I imagine there are quite a few key countries making up that number, not just one or two.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The UK market, estimated at USD 159.31 million in 2025. Strong CAGR there, 6.6%. That might be boosted by government health initiatives, maybe increased awareness.
Sorry.
Germany's close behind, USD 187.76 million market in 2025, 6.0% CAGR. Likely driven by a focus on early diagnosis, comprehensive management. Then you've got France, Russia, Italy, Spain. They all represent significant markets within Europe. Each has its own growth rate, kind of reflecting their specific healthcare situations.
It's interesting seeing those slight variations across established markets like that.
Yeah.
Suggests different approaches, maybe different priorities in tackling gout.
It really does.
Hmm.
The report also gives numbers for some smaller European markets,
Oh.
Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and then a combined figure for the rest of Europe.
Right.
And what's notable is even some of those smaller players show pretty robust growth. Again, probably reflects the generally high standards of healthcare access across the continent.
Okay. Now, shifting gears to a region that sounds like it has a lot of growth potential. Let's talk Asia Pacific, APAC.
Right, APAC. Currently holds around 23% of the global market share. Size is USD 784.8 million in 2025.
Okay, so smaller than North America or Europe right now.
Right now, yes. But here's where it gets really interesting. This region, projected to have the fastest CAGR, a remarkable 9.4% from 2025 to 2033.
Wow, 9.4%. That's significantly higher than the global average.
It is nearly a third faster. This kind of explosive growth, it signals a big shift in the global landscape for gout, presents opportunities, challenges too, of course.
So which countries are really driving that charge in APAC?
Well, China is a huge player. Market size of USD 329.62 million in 2025. Robust 8.9% CAGR.
Sure.
That's attributed to things like rising incidence of chronic kidney disease, CKD, which is often linked with gout,
Right?
and just improving healthcare infrastructure, making treatments more accessible. But India stands out.
How so?
Highest projected CAGR in the region, 11.3%, with a 2025 market size of USD 78.48 million.
11.3%. And the report gives a specific reason for that super high growth in India.
It does, yeah. It links it directly to dietary patterns, higher consumption of high-purine foods, sugary drinks, alcohol. And interestingly, it even mentions India's record seafood exports as a contributing factor, sort of an indicator of these evolving dietary habits.
That's fascinating. A direct link between seafood exports and gout medication market growth.
Oh,
Unexpected.
it is, isn't it?
What about other key APAC markets? Japan, South Korea?
Yep, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Taiwan. They all have substantial markets, strong growth projections too. Maybe not quite at India's pace, but still very strong, mostly in the 8-9% range.
Okay.
The report also includes figures for Southeast Asia and the rest of APAC. It really emphasizes the broader impact of, urbanization and changing diets across the whole region. That seems to be the big story there.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on to South America. What's the market looking like down there?
South America accounts for just over 5% of the global market. Size of USD 124.26 million in 2025. Projected CAGR is 7.4% to 2033.
So a smaller share, but growing faster than the global average.
Exactly. That growth is notable. Suggests an increasing focus on managing conditions like gout in the region.
And Brazil's the key player there, I imagine.
Yes, Brazil has the largest market in South America. About USD 53.18 million in 2025, and a strong 8.0% CAGR.
Okay.
That seems driven by a growing incidence of comorbidities, other related health conditions, things like hypertension, diabetes.
Right.
The report even notes that non-communicable diseases, some with similar risk factors to gout, account for a really significant percentage of deaths in Brazil. Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile also contribute, each with their own growth rates, mostly in the 7-8% range too.
So it sounds like general economic development and maybe increased healthcare spending are playing a role in South America's growth.
Exactly. The report implies that as economies grow, there's often a related increase in healthcare spending that makes more advanced gout therapies potentially more accessible to more people.
Right. Now let's look at the Middle East.
Okay, the Middle East currently holds around 2% of the global market size. USD 130.80 million in 2025. Projected KGR is strong, 8.0% through 2033.
8%, okay. Also faster than average.
Yes. The report really emphasizes a growing prioritization of managing chronic diseases, including gout in this region. Seems to be a bigger focus now.
Which countries are leading the charge there?
Saudi Arabia and the UAE have the largest markets, followed by Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt. There's also a figure for the rest of the Middle East, but overall the trend seems clear. More investment in healthcare infrastructure addressing that increasing burden of chronic condition.
Got it. And finally, let's touch on Africa.
Africa has a smaller market share for now, around 1%. Size of USD 71.94 million in 2025. Projected CAGR is 7.0% to 2033.
Still a solid growth rate, though.
It is quite significant, and the report points to increasing attention from pharmaceutical companies, plus improving accessibility of medications in the region.
And South Africa and Nigeria were specifically mentioned.
Yes. South Africa has the largest market in Africa, followed by Nigeria, where, interestingly, changing dietary habits are noted again as a contributing factor.
That dietary link keeps popping up.
It does. The report suggests that as the pharma industry expands its reach in Africa, access to effective gout treatments is likely to keep improving.
Okay, so that's the global tour. We've seen the size, the growth, the regional differences. Now let's talk about the actual drugs. What does the report say about market segmentation by drug type?
Well, according to the report, NSAID's non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, they're expected to remain a dominant force.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. They're typically the first line of defense, right? For those acute gout attacks. They give quick relief from the pain and inflammation.
How do they work again?
They basically inhibit COX enzymes. Those are key players in the body's inflammatory response. So NSAIDs help reduce that pain and swelling fairly quickly.
Got it. And what about other types of medications? Are there newer things coming through?
Yes, and this is really interesting, the biologics segment. Identified as the fastest growing.
Biologic.
These are more advanced, much more targeted therapies. Think of them like smart bombs targeting specific triggers for inflammation.
Right.
Like a molecule called IL-1, which is really key in gout flare-ups. There are also things called recombinant uricase enzymes. These directly help the body break down uric acid.
So they address the underlying cause more directly.
Exactly. That's the key difference. They go after the root cause, the high uric acid, rather than just managing the symptoms. The report mentions examples like canakinumab, secukinumab, pegloticase. It really highlights this shift.
That definitely fits with the broader trends in pharma research, moving towards more targeted treatments.
Absolutely.
So how are these drugs, both the established ones and the newer biologics, actually getting to patients? What about distribution channels?
The report indicates that hospital pharmacies currently account for the largest share of the distribution market.
Okay, hospitals.
But retail pharmacies are expanding their reach pretty rapidly. That suggests these medications are becoming more available outside of hospitals, which is good for patient access.
Yeah, easier to get a prescription filled.
Right. And the report also mentions online pharmacies as an emerging channel. Doesn't give specific market share figures for them yet, but notes they're part of the picture now.
Okay. So we're looking at this growing market, lots of regional variation, different treatments, especially these upcoming biologics and evolving ways for patients to get them. What are the main things really driving this overall market growth?
The report flags several key drivers. First, and maybe most obvious, is just the rising incidence of gout itself.
More people getting diagnosed.
Exactly. That naturally increases demand for treatments. Second, the increasing rates of obesity globally. That's a major risk factor for developing gout, so that's pushing demand too. And finally, as we've touched on, the ongoing R&D, the research and development, that's crucial. That's leading to new, more effective treatment options.
Like the biologics.
Like the biologics, yes, and even newer approaches like RNA interference therapies, RNAi. That's pretty cutting-edge stuff.
RNAi. How does that work for gout?
Well, the idea is to essentially silence the genes responsible for producing the problematic substances, like the enzyme that leads to high uric acid. The report mentions a collaboration between Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals and Horizon Therapeutics for a drug candidate called ARO-XDH as an example of this innovation happening right now.
Very interesting. Okay, so those are the drivers. On the flip side, are there any speed bumps? Factors holding back market growth or posing challenges?
Yes, a couple of key restraints are mentioned. One is the high cost, especially for some of the newer, more advanced treatments, particularly those biologics. That cost can definitely limit access for some patients.
Sure, affordability is always an issue with new drugs.
It is. And secondly, while current treatments work well for many, they aren't perfect for everyone. There can be side effects, or they might not be effective enough. That limited efficacy in some cases drives the continued need for even better solutions.
So, despite the growth, there's still room for improvement, still a need for innovation. What about overarching trends? What did the report identify there?
A major trend is simply the growing demand for those advanced therapies we've discussed. Both patients and doctors are looking for more targeted, more effective ways to manage gout long-term.
Right, moving beyond just treating flares.
Exactly. And another big trend is the growing focus on personalized medicine or precision medicine. The idea of tailoring treatments to the specific characteristics and needs of an individual patient rather than a one-size-fits-all approach.
Makes sense. And what about the companies actually making these drugs? What's the competitive landscape look like? Is it Crowded, active?
It seems pretty active. The market includes a mix of, the big established pharmaceutical giants and also newer, maybe more agile biotech firms.
Yep.
They're all actively engaged in developing these new and targeted gout therapies. There's a huge emphasis on R&D aimed at not just lowering uric acid, but also preventing those long-term complications gout can cause.
Right, like joint damage or kidney problems.
Precisely. The report specifically notes substantial investment in biologics, naturally, but also in developing biosimilars.
Ah, like generic versions of biologics.
Yeah.
More affordable.
Essentially, yes. That's a key area. And also just creating innovative drug formulations, maybe easier ways to take existing medicines.
And who are the main players? Which companies are really making waves in this space?
The report lists several major competitors. Names like Takeda Pharmaceutical Company, Novartis, Regeneron, AstraZeneca, Horizon Therapeutics, who we mentioned with that RNAi drug, Merck & Co., Taijin Pharma, GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, and Zydus Group. So yeah, a mix of big global names. These are some of the key companies driving things forward.
Okay, so to kind of wrap this all up, it really sounds like the global gout therapeutics market isn't just substantial already, but it's really poised for some significant growth in the coming years.
Absolutely. The numbers tell a clear story, don't they? Projecting an increase from, what was it, USD 3.27 billion in 2025 up to nearly 5.5 billion by 2033. And that robust average growth of 6.7% each year, it's being fueled by that combination of factors we talked about. More people affected, plus these really exciting advancements in treatment.
And those regional differences are pretty striking too. APAC showing that really rapid growth, while North America and Europe hold the biggest shares for now. It's definitely a dynamic area, lots of innovation, especially with the rise of these targeted biologic therapies.
Indeed. And, considering all these trends, it does raise an interesting question for you listening. With these ongoing advancements, especially in personalized medicine, how might we see gout being managed even more effectively in the future?
Good question.
And as this market keeps growing globally, what are the potential implications for access? Can we ensure these increasingly sophisticated treatments actually reach people in different parts of the world, people with different economic means? It's definitely something to think about as this field continues to evolve so quickly.